Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm your boy Retro Bliss, and you are on the Retro Bliss Rewind podcast. It's actually the Retro Bliss Rewind podcast. Did I say that right? Yes, I did. Okay. We're going to have some fun tonight. We are going to be talking about the ColecoVision. And so without further ado, let's just get to it. Let's get to the panel. Mike from Mike's Gaming Gala, Brian from BD RetroMods, and our special guest, Mr. Post Style himself. What's going on, fellas?
Yeah, he's not that special.
Got my ColecoVision pin on just for the show.
Oh, you do you?
can see it.
That's right.
You know what? He is special because Poe has something for later in the show that he's going to flex over all of us.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually fairly new to the ColecoVision. I have to show something to kind of tick Mike off a little bit. As you guys know, I started getting into retro gaming around COVID and started doing the collecting or whatnot. And I went to a yard sale and found a ColecoVision with a number of games there. But when I got the ColecoVision, the guy said, "Here, it works." He showed me on this little dinky black and white TV and showed it to me. And when I got home and the picture was kind of washed out and black and, not working. And Brian and I were friends at that point, still, we had just become friends not too long. And I was talking to him about it and he goes, "Hey man, I think that's the power button." He said, "If you want to send it to me, I'll look at it for you." So anyway, he looked at it, he fixed it for me. And he also did this to it.
He drilled holes.
He modded it.
You know I did.
Take a shot.
Mike does not like. He does not like.
I don't like drilling holes.
He does not like altering hardware.
At the same time, if something is not working and you have to do something to make it work, I'd rather it be preserved. So.
But the way
and used.
Brian did get it working to factory. It was working fine with RF, but he asked me.
Well, see, now you just lost all my goodwill.
No.
or the other thing you can do is you can have video jacks that you can fit where that RF came from, so you don't have to drill into the plastic.
So with the ColecoVision, you actually got to keep the RF in there whenever you do the mod. You can't pull it out like the Atari. And
there's a lot of vent holes. You can wire something through there. Come on.
Retro Overdose. He's not real happy about that either.
Retro Overdose is on my team for this one, and he is nominated for YouTuber of the Month this month.
Nice. Congratulations, Retro Overdose. Good luck to you, man. Yeah, man. I'll have to check it out. Yeah. I know 3 of the 4 of us were all nominated at one point or other.
That's true.
So yeah.
You'll have to check out last week's podcast for that. That was a good one.
Yeah, we had a reunion show on that last week. You need to check that out, Retro. But anyway. So, how do we get this party started?
You know what? I think we could just talk about the ColecoVision in general, unless you've got something else that because Channel of the Yars, long before the podcast even started, had a comment in my chat, and he's put it up as well here, followed up with it. He's saying obviously Yars Revenge is a big game for him, and he's a big Atari fan. He's saying Atari's better than ColecoVision. And I say it depends on what you consider better, and we can talk about maybe that. Because more power, in every stat, it's better. It's got more button inputs, even though it's got, personally, one of the worst controllers ever made. I hate the ColecoVision controller. But the system itself, graphically, awesome. Its processing power for the time was great. its audio for the time was great, but more powerful does not always equal best. And we talked about this when we were talking about Master System versus NES. The Master System was superior to NES in many ways, but that doesn't mean it was the better system. The game library is a huge part of what makes a system great. And
oh,
yeah.
Yep. No, I was just saying,
go ahead.
no, and the thing to that, I mean, and again, I'm not going to do a big history lesson, but you got to think about when the ColecoVision came out. You know, it released in August of 1982, and you know, we all know what happened in 1983. So when it came to video games, I mean, you had the quote unquote video game crash. You know, so unfortunately, it like Mike said, it on paper, it is by all means. Of the second gen consoles, it was the most powerful of them all. You know, when you compared it to the 5200, you compared it to the Intellivision. I mean, and again, when you look at the games that did get released and how they looked in sound compared to Intellivision and Atari, I mean, there's no question it was a better console in the sense of specs. Like I said, I think if the crash didn't happen and Coleco would have made some smarter decisions toward the end there, because you know, not to get too far ahead, but they ultimately added they got big on the Atom computer, and that was literally the downfall of them, because it had so many problems. But but again, if you didn't have the crash, it would have been really interesting to see what that catalog would have been, because they had a lot of support. I mean, they had pretty much all the big players behind them. I mean, the only one they really didn't have was, I believe, Activision. But I mean, you had a Magic, you had Sega, you had Parker Brothers, you had a lot of those big players at the time porting stuff.
And for the time, you had not Nintendo exclusives, but the best versions of the Nintendo arcade games. But like you said, it came out in August of '82. ColecoVision had a lifespan of about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I saw
compared to
I'm sorry, I saw an ad where they had all the like a 2600, a 5200, 26 some other systems, and then they had the ColecoVision, and of all of them, the ColecoVision was the most expensive, and it was only $99, and they were trying to get these out,
clear them out,
because people were not buying them. They just were not buying them.
Yeah, right. But it was like pulling teeth for him to get the CEO of Coleco to get the ColecoVision out in the first place. So whenever it started to fail, I think that they were just like, bye, come in with the Cabbage Patch Kids, you know, after that. So.
Well, and you also have to remember, Coleco stands for Connecticut Leather Company.
Right.
Like, they weren't a video game company. They did a lot with Telstar. But Retro Overdose mentions, and he's absolutely right, that the crash was a Western thing.
Yeah, it was.
And certainly, if you were a gamer, it was heaven, because games were like $5 at the store on clearance and all that. There's a lot of people that lived through that era, and they're like, "Oh, there was no crash. We all played video games and all that." The companies crashed.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is because Atari never had like a big thing in Japan, like we had here, and I think that's partly why you didn't see the crash as much, because they were already moving on. Because as I wear the shirt tonight, kind of for a reason, it's just when you look at the ColecoVision, you got to remember Sega literally took one of those back to Japan, reverse engineered it to make the SG-1000. So so again, they were already ahead of us per se, and that's why they didn't see it, because again, we were so set on Atari, which is nothing, because again, I love Atari just like everyone else here in the channel. But there was just so much trash coming out on the Atari at that point that people just lost confidence. Just like with the 5200, they spent way too much for what it ended up being. And people were very disappointed. Now again, it's a great system. Controller killed it. And again, as we're going to talk here, the controller didn't help this one either. I mean, for whatever reason, in the second gen of consoles, controllers are just bad across the board. It's a curse of the second gen consoles. So
yeah, I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I would say definitely with the ColecoVision that it's a system that I really like, killed by this, which has then been, was kind of sort of helped with this, and then absolutely saved by Brian of BD RetroMods decades later.
Yes. Is it time yet?
No.
Yeah, let's hold him up.
We're gonna do it now. Oh, geez, I guess I'll hold mine up. Yeah.
The best controller for the ColecoVision is
my favorite accessory.
Well, thank you guys. That's I'm always love hearing feedback on them. So.
But for the most, we'll get to controllers and stuff later. We've got a lot of peripherals to show. We're going to focus mostly on original Coleco stuff, but of course, we'll have to mention some of the more modern stuff because there's a thriving homebrew community and a lot of aftermarket stuff.
Okay, well, how do we get started on that? Well, Darren, you were talking about the crash. ColecoVision knew that this was an issue, and they were worried that Atari still had a foothold because they were continuing to crank out 2600s. So,
well, you got to remember 2600s. I mean, we had stuff cleared till I think 1990 or 89, 90, something like that. I mean, how many consoles today get commercial releases for almost 25 years? I mean, when you think about it. So, I mean,
so what they did, and I think they got sued over it, was they came out with this. You guys have box versions of the expansion module. You guys all have these too, right?
I held up the Gemini. Yeah. So obviously the game library on the Atari 2600 vastly superior to any of its competition, at least in quantity. There you go. There's the box for it.
Yeah, there's the box of it.
So ColecoVision and Intellivision did this as well. It was like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. You can plug this into our system and play your Atari games as well as a ColecoVision. So imagine if Xbox came out with an accessory that played PS5 games.
Yeah. So
and then they got extra cheeky and actually made their own 2600.
Right.
So this is a Coleco Gemini, and it's got built-in paddle controller and joystick, and it would play all your Atari 2600 games, and it came with two Mousetrap, which is great, and Donkey Kong, which is just kind of okay on the 2600.
Well, I think
you can play all your Atari games on a Coleco system dedicated for just Atari games.
Well, and I think with the Gemini, and I could be completely wrong on this, is that wasn't that an agreement between Coleco and Atari as a settlement for that expansion module one, I think? Or no?
I am not overly...
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Sure on that.
But yeah, everybody had to get in on the 2600 act because they knew all the kids had the 2600 games, most of them anyway, right? So Intellivision had to do it. ColecoVision had to do it, which this is a great thing. The only ones that didn't do it were Atari with the 5200 until people complained enough and they came out with this monstrosity.
Yeah, I need to get one of those.
That only works on, I think, the 4-port.
Explain what that is.
Yeah, this is the 2600 adapter for the 5200. And you will plug your
never plug it in. They had a problem where they were shorting out the boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a change that they made. Yeah, you could only play these on. Was it the 2-port? Yeah, 2-port. Unless you sent your if you sent unless you sent it in to have them redo the board for you. Or now you can do it yourself. But I never use the thing because I have a billion ways to play Atari, but I had to have it for the collection when I saw it. But it's nowhere near as pretty as this, I think.
Oh yeah, that expansion model is pretty sexy.
Right.
Well, and the thing to remember too is the time period of all this, because I know someone mentioned it too about the momentum of the 2600, and I mean, and that's the reason why you had this stuff, because the mindset was, why am I going to buy a new system? I got all these games sitting here. I don't want to get rid of these games. I've invested too much, and
the market.
I want to. Okay.
And the market hadn't been trained yet that, every 5 to 10 years you get an upgrade in system.
Exactly. Yeah. On top of this fact of you really didn't have more than one console hooked to your TV, so again, if I get this new one, how am I, messing with this? So that's the reason why those expansions took off. I mean, because again, you had them on Coleco, you had them on Intellivision, and again, eventually they had to put it on the 5200 because of just poor sales of the 5200.
And then later, obviously, with the 7800 was backwards compatible. So
exactly.
there were new systems being made that would play Atari 2600 games right up till the end of the 80s.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing too to think about that library is the fact that Atari had a 5-year head start on ColecoVision for their game library. They got established. But when ColecoVision came out, it was no slouch. And it actually passed the Intellivision in sales figures in a much shorter time.
And I mean, I think its retail price at the time was, I think about $175, which, around today's standard is about 500. But but that was still cheaper than the competition, because I believe the Intellivision, when it first came out, didn't that start at like $250? I think
it was significantly more expensive than the 2600.
So I know that was the appeal, with the ColecoVision too. Like the price point it came in at was cheaper than other consoles that were released initially. So for that generation.
And then the ColecoVision obviously had other accessories. And Retro Bliss had shown his in a previous controller episode, but I thought that I would show mine this time because his was missing the gas pedal. And this thing, okay, it is not a good steering controller. You would take this, you'd put it out on the floor, you would put your ColecoVision controller in here, and that could be your shifter knob. But for what it is, this thing was decent. The games that it worked with were not. But as an accessory, if you had this when you were a kid, this was damn cool.
Right, you can throw the big old batteries in there.
Yeah, it could be plugged in.
No,
sorry. Yeah, just the batteries.
Yeah.
So it's 6 batteries, right?
I think it's 6 Cs, yeah.
Oh, so 6 Cs, not
I don't
3
think
pairs of double Ds.
Stop. Wait a minute.
I got 4 Cs still in mine. 4 Cs. Because I used it recently on a homebrew game that we're not talking about yet.
All right. See, I know how to do it now.
Worth it.
You got to behave yourself on this. This is a PG show.
I just said a letter.
I know, but it's gonna. I got people on the chat now. It's gonna start getting bad.
No, because the worst one's right here.
That's true.
I said nothing. I was talking about batteries. It got me all flustered now. My goodness. What if my family's watching? Well, they don't watch anything that I do. So there's no problem there.
Hey, Operation Shutdown, you are a moderator on the channel, man. I may need you today. I don't know.
Operation Shutdown, I don't know if you just joined, but I did mention drilling consoles, so you got to take a shot.
He's about ready to go again. Okay.
but no, so when we talk about the driving control, the other one, and I think one of the other guys here have a better box version, but then they also had their roller controller.
Nice. I don't have one of those yet.
And this is very interesting, especially when you do go back to like Atari's trackball, which and again, I personally I feel the Atari one's better. And also, I don't believe this is like a true trackball in the trackball sense, because one of the weird things with it was you actually had to plug it into the power port of the console, which then the power brick plugged right in behind it. And then you had the just controller extensions that then went into the console itself. And then you had the ability to put the original Coleco controllers then in on the sides. And I mean, it definitely worked for what it was designed for, but again, it's one of those just interesting pieces, for its time, especially when you think about how the Atari trackball was created.
You really have to hand it to them, though. It looks awesome. Anybody seeing this in the store would want it.
But yes, but to channel the R's point, because I guess we did kind of skip it a little bit. I mean, you did have the original controller with that, and Mike's already given his opinion of it, and I will concur with it. I mean, it's bad, especially when you're used to other consoles. And again, the problem I have with it, some of it's similar to Mike's, but like just the idea of the joystick piece up on the top, I never did understand that. I mean, it feels that like it makes more sense at the bottom.
And it's stiff.
So it's a very
stiff. Like if you get a working 5200 controller, the joystick's at the top, but at least it's a gentle analog. Like it doesn't feel like you're wrenching it out of your hand every time you try to get Mario to go up the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to go into these things and bend the little leaves.
Well, I was just going to say, because I mean, I don't know if you can hear it in my microphone, but like this particular one, hear that click?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just after a while with it. I mean, to your point, you got to open it up and kind of fix it up there. And
I have that. Bliss.
You know what that is, don't you?
I have it, but I never put it in.
Well, you don't need to when you got Brian's controller.
I don't have one of those either.
Mine's still in the package.
So is mine. What? Sorry, I was going to make a joke, but I'm not allowed. This is the wrong
stop it.
But the other thing with this controller, which again, you had this with the 5200 and others as well, but I've never been a fan of buttons on the side. I've never been a fan of that. And I mean, because honestly, even Atari did the same thing with the 7800 for the American version, controllers. Yep. It's just, I've never been a fan of side buttons.
Although these buttons on the side feel better to me than the Pro line for the 7800. To me, they do.
No, I mean, these at least can push in better. I mean, right. And that's one of the issues with the Intellivision. They're fairly stiff on the sides. Especially in Intellivision 2, those are horrendous. But
Intellivision 2, it's like the buttons don't even move. You just hurt your finger. But speaking of, that with your controller, and even the systems themselves, ColecoVision had pretty poor quality control when it came to manufacturing. Mm-hmm. As great as the system was and as high end as it was for when it came out, there are a lot of issues. The power switches are a very common issue where it doesn't let enough juice through and your system doesn't work right. Controllers, they're more than like any 2600 I come across, it works or I can make it work. Any Intellivision that I come across, for the most part, it works or I can make it work. At least the system. The controllers with the Mylar can sometimes be funny. ColecoVisions, they tend to have a lot more issues.
They definitely do have more issues. I mean, the positive note, if you know what you're doing with them, I mean, you can still get a lot of the parts, because one of the benefits is it used a lot of common parts when they made it. So so a lot of the issues, like you can go to console 5 and get replacement, RAM chips
and a fireball they'll send you when you order.
Right, exactly. So I mean, it is good you can get a lot of the parts at least still to fix them if you're comfortable doing that type of stuff. But to Mike's point, though, there is definitely issues like the power switch. It's just not good. And again, some people are purists and they would prefer you to rip the power switch apart, clean it all out, put it back together, and it will work again. But I just feel, for me, I think you do delay the inevitable, and I like just putting a new switch in. And again, I think Phil showed that. Didn't you show that already?
I didn't show the switch. I can't.
Okay. Yep. But I mean, I just put a rocker switch in them, and and they work so much better, and then you don't have to mess with that anymore. And
and a lot of times that'll clean up that artifacting or the problems you're having with the graphics.
Power switch.
Yep. But then another issue with the Coleco, which is notorious, is just do not unplug the controller while it's powered on. It has major issues with. I mean, you can definitely cause a short because, again, just the way it's designed, and then you end up burning out those controller chips, and then again, you got to know how to solder them back, new ones back in. But that was a big problem with it as well. It's just the good news is, though, a lot of those issues are repairable, at least today, still, while you can get the parts. So,
and another
before we go on, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mike. Wacky World of Windows asked a question a while back. He wants to ask a question about the Atom computer system and about its compatibility with the ColecoVision. Now, actually, you could play ColecoVision games on an Atom computer, but I don't know if you needed a ColecoVision to.
So they were eventually, because it never came out. There was supposed to be an Atom module for the ColecoVision, because for the most part, the Atom is a computerized version of the ColecoVision for all intents and purposes. There's some minor tweaks, changes in it, but for all intents and purposes, that is what it is. But they were going to have an add-on to be able to
had
use
like
it.
tape drives and some stuff, and it was
but again,
just the base console came in a box like this, and I scoffed at paying $150 for a complete in-box Atom computer 15 years ago, and I've been kicking myself ever since. But at the same time, I haven't had to pay for the storage space to.
Well, they actually did sell them. They actually did sell them, but they were like off the market.
Of course.
But they were off the market almost immediately, because as soon as they got them out in the retail market, people were returning them because they were buggy and not working right and all kinds of problems.
Yeah, there's a famous episode of The Simpsons where they show Ralph in the elementary school in their computer lab, and their school was so cheap that they were all the Coleco computers that Ralph was working on there.
But to the point of his question, though, I mean, all the peripherals and things like that from the ColecoVision and the games do work on the Atom.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily vice versa, though. It just depends. I mean, I think if you got the game cartridges, obviously they work, but there's other things that were on the Atom that you would not be able to put onto the ColecoVision.
And later games, you'll see, like the one that I have sitting in front of me doesn't, but a lot of them will say ColecoVision and Atom computer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Before we move off of quality control stuff too much, let's there you go, ColecoVision and Atom. Let's talk about this ungodly. First of all, it's ginormous. Second of all, they are notorious for not putting out enough power, especially if you've got something like the Super Game module plugged in. Anybody want to talk about that and the fix that is out there?
I wish I had what the fix is. I think Poe's got the box for that,
Poe's
right?
gonna need to show it. So was looking in my little tub here. I forgot to bring that up. Yep. But
and I actually got mine. They talked about it in one of the Facebook groups when it first came out. I didn't jump on it. I think it sold out. And then somebody came on one day and said, they're back again. Hurry up and get them. I think it actually came from Germany. But yeah, let me pull it out of the box here and show you. I haven't used it yet because I got something else later. So you can see where it plugs into the ColecoVision with the 4 pins in the back. And then you got your USB-C on this side. So now you don't have to have the giant brick taking up all the space in the world. And it's going to be really easy to find a cable to plug into this thing and replace just that instead of the whole giant brick.
Yeah. So let me get everybody in. I've got busy with the chat. Sorry.
But yeah, no, again, it's one of those, I think it was almost like, hey, here's a very cheap power supply. Let's make sure it works with the ColecoVision, because for all intents and purposes, it did not need to be the voltage.
And let's line it with lead.
I mean, the thing is, yeah. It's notorious for going bad. And the bad part, and that is the bad part if you are, wanting to go back and get a ColecoVision, you're going to get a power supply and it'll probably work for a bit. But the thing is what you might not realize is that it might seem like it's working, but it's not necessarily putting out the full voltage that it needs to put out, which in turn can cause some other damages eventually to your console. And, but the bad part is there's really no replacement. I mean, like what Poe showed was amazing, and it's worth its weight in gold. I mean, it's worth every penny. I think it was $50 for it. Yeah. It was worth it. But the issue is that you can't seem to find those anymore. Like there's like no update or news of a new batch coming out, and so now you're at the scalpers market. If someone is selling them, and the bad part is just, to my knowledge, if anyone knows anything, please let us know. It's just no one seems to be making a replacement power supply for the ColecoVision. So, and a lot of it's just because of how it's designed, where again, they came up with a way to use that. So maybe someone can build off that to eventually get us a different one.
Because you can see, like, they've got the output on pin 1 is positive 5 volts, and pin 2 is negative 5 volts. Pin 3 is 12 volts, and then pin 4. Like, what the hell are they doing? Just put 9 volts into your system, which we all know is all it needs.
Yep.
Anyhow, the joys of ColecoVision.
I never got around to using mine just because, like I said, I had the artifacting problem. I bought a rocker switch when there was still a Radio Shack, so that's when I was gonna do this for my ColecoVision. But then something else came about later, and I still haven't fixed that switch. I have the rocker switch still sitting there in the Radio Shack packaging. But when I saw these and people were saying grab them now, it's like I should grab this just in case, because originally the idea was I was going to keep that ColecoVision hooked up in my game room forever with all of my systems down there. So,
but now you have something even better, so you should send me that power supply. or you shoshould send me what you have, which maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah. The ColecoVision Phoenix is what we're talking about here. And I have it right here. Just a little tiny. They have one that was the color of the atom. That was the game that came with it. I'll take that out so you can see. The original ones of these, I think did they 3D print the original batch? I think
just the prototype. I think they were all injection molded that they sent out.
Yeah, then on the back they have this. It just says expansion, so I haven't used that. But your HDMI and then the power cord goes in there. Now on the front of this, you can use your ColecoVision controllers, but you also have a Super Nintendo controller port,
which is so awesome. And I didn't grab mine. I could have shown that.
Yeah, I don't have that one with the number pad in between.
Yeah, so the Super Nintendo, what we're talking about is the Super Nintendo had a modem controller that had a number pad in the middle of it, much like a ColecoVision controller or an Intellivision controller or a 5200 controller. And so they have native, and also it wasn't mentioned, the ColecoVision Phoenix is an FPGA ColecoVision.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
And you can plug your Super Nintendo directly into it, that controller, and play ColecoVision games with the full number pad. Now, prior to that, there was a kit, and I actually have the kit here, but because I wanted to get a Phoenix one day, and then they never make them anymore, I didn't do it. But you can convert this with this kit. And another reason I didn't do it, because I had to put all the surface-mounted diodes on, and that's a pain in the butt. But this would convert your Super Nintendo modem controller to work with a regular ColecoVision with the the DB9 connector.
And there are certain button presses you can do together to mimic the keypad. But for me, I just find it's easier. I can put my ColecoVision controller in either of these ports, my Super Nintendo on the side, and use the keypad from this, but play my games with this. Sometimes I use my 8-bit though wireless one, but it's kind of like you still got to get up to put games in and stuff. And well, you don't have to. You have your SD card, which this one they even branded with the little Phoenix on it that came with it, and you put your games on there. It has a core on it for Atari 2600, so you could put your entire library of ColecoVision and 2600 games on the thing and just play them all. And the one that I bought was through Coleco Holdings. They got so many, I think, from CollectorVision at the time that they were going to sell. So I ended up buying just their cheaper version. I don't even remember the price on it, but they ended up being out of stock. So he sent me the deluxe for the price of the cheaper one. Ooh. So I don't really remember what all was special, except they already had a few game ROMs on here that were Super Game Module games, which I forgot to mention that too. The Super Game Module is built into the thing. Right there. And they threw in this Atom controller, came with the thing, and then you also got the Sydney Hunter Caverns of Death came with it.
Which is a good game.
But on the SD card is the other Sydney Hunter game that came out for the ColecoVision. They put the ROM on there for you already when you bought the thing. But the thing that I find really hilarious is a lot of people that bought this direct from CollectorVision never got a real box aside from a cardboard box. And Coleco Holdings decided to do their own box. And I've showed this on different groups, and people just find it hilarious. But this is their box for the thing.
It is really funny.
And they put a chameleon on there.
Yeah, I love the chameleon, just to poke fun at the Coleco chameleon. And I love that the deluxe collector's edition package, it's like, we'll give you the controller that doesn't match your console.
Exactly, yeah. We got that. And somebody must have yelled at them or something, because there's actually a sticker they put over this. It says Chameleon Bundle Package, but the chameleon has a piece of white tape on the thing. But it comes with CollectorVision's instruction manual that tells you the button presses you need to make if you're using a Super Nintendo controller. And, it looks like a ColecoVision manual. Everything's inside. But I'm glad I grabbed it when I did. Because they kept talking about a third run if they could get at least 300 people to order the thing. And now they'll straight out, Toby will tell you straight out on their Facebook page, we're not doing it unless a third-party company gets involved and takes this thing over.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because that thing's slick. I mean, I wish someone would grab it so we can get our hands on it.
I really, really wish I had been in a position to buy one when they came out. It just came out at the wrong time for me. I would love one. Third party, please contact CollectorVision and produce some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Dr. Volk, who is another nominee for this month's YouTuber of the Month.
Hey, congratulations!
Is asking what our favorite ColecoVision game is, and I figure I'll start. Believe it or not, Ladybug. I love Ladybug.
Oh, Ladybug is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know what mine is? It's Pepper 2.
Oh, nice.
I love that game. That's such a great game. That's a
Well,
good.
they do have so many good games. It's really kind of hard to.
I mean, there's a ton, and again, I'm sure we'll go around here at some point and maybe talk about some of our favorites. But I guess one off the cusp right now would be Nova Blast. I really like that one. It's kind of I don't want to say a Defender clone because there is enough difference with it, but it's in the style of Defender.
Hey, BCB, it's just all YouTuber of the month stuff. It's like 3 of us
BCB.
here.
All these
BCB in the chat. We have Retro Overdose, Dr. Volk.
Yeah, man, all these YouTuber of the month people, man. What's going on?
They have,
but actually, I kind of forgot about it. Before we get into talking more about the games we like and stuff, I was going to show the other console here.
Yes. Let's do that.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
Because again, good point to get on. So like I said, if you can get your hands on a Phoenix, I mean, that's obviously the way to go. Unfortunately, third-party market right now, the thing's astronomically stupid expensive. But the good news is there is another option. So like if you don't want to take a chance on an original Coleco, you can actually, they have what's called the CV NUC Plus video game system. You can actually get this at Brewing Academy. It comes in a couple different options where you can get the board and like as a kit with like the 3D printed shell, the keypad and the board, and you can buy the parts yourself to put it together, or Brewing Academy actually sells them completely assembled. But ultimately, this is a ColecoVision, and you can see how small it is, kind of like the Phoenix. I mean, when you put a cartridge to it in comparison, just to kind of give you the size. But what's nice about this though is again, it's a clone console. It is not FPGA, so it is just a ColecoVision clone. And again, everything I've thrown at it has worked. I've not seen any compatibility issues. But it does have the keypad here, so that way, if you are maybe using an Atari controller or maybe a modified controller for the ColecoVision that doesn't have a keypad, you have that there to be able to use it. You still have your basic joystick ports for player 1, player 2 for the ColecoVision. But what's also nice is it has a USB port for a mouse for it to act like the rollerball controller. So that's really cool. Just like the Phoenix, the Super Game Module technology is built into this. So you can play games, homebrew games that require the Super Game Module. And then just on the back, you have your power supply for it, your on-off switch, and then it has a jack for composite AV, which the jack to it is the same composite cables you would use on a TI-99 or an Atari 800, and other Atari 8-bit models. But again, this is a neat little way to also experience a ColecoVision. Like I said, if it's something of interest, you can go to Brewing Academy, check it out. So
let me ask you a question. Will that work with a multi-cart like an Atari Max or a backbit?
Yep. It does. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm impressed. So I presume then that it doesn't work with a ROM dumper. Does it actually read the ROM from the cart, or does it dump the ROM?
No, it's literally so like when you think about like the old like NES clone consoles and different things like that.
Oh, so it's actually got the chips in
Yes, it's actually chips in it. So
okay.
So I mean, there is no ROM dumping or anything. It literally is acting like a true ColecoVision. So
that's really cool.
So like I said, flash carts work just fine. Like I said, everything I've thrown at it has had no issue. So
I know in addition to the Phoenix and that there, which I'm definitely going to check that out. There was another, and nothing had come out yet, but he was working on an interchangeable FPGA Atom computer. That would again be
I saw that.
And it had these little modules that you could put in and out of it. I haven't seen anything. I don't know if that was abandoned because I haven't seen anything for probably about 6 months on it. But there was progression and renders and diagrams for that. So there may be a separate FPGA option in the future. I do not know, but I remember seeing that for sure on Facebook groups.
Cool. So again, definitely check it out. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like cheap, because I think to get it fully assembled from Brewing Academy is like $250, I think. Like if you want to get the kit to build it yourself, I think it starts at like $80. But one thing I saw, because I wanted to initially build it myself, by the time you get the part list and you start trying to piece it out yourself, because you're not buying anything in bulk, it ends up being more expensive than just getting it already fully assembled. So
Pierre is commenting that the CV NUC is $275.
also, is it now? It's $275. Okay.
Yeah.
So it does seem to keep
Thanks,
going up.
inflation.
So, yeah. So I think
my Phoenix is only $4,000 if Mike wants it, and that's U.S. money, not Canadian.
Not Monopoly money.
Yeah. So
Again,
again,
I can do Monopoly money.
So again, it all comes down to how much you really want to invest in it. Like I said, I really like it. But again, if you're not a person who plans on investing a lot of time into a ColecoVision, it might not be for you. But
at the same time, if it's something, if you're the type of person that just wants to play and are going to spend years and years playing, I'm on my third ColecoVision. Getting one of those, that should last you your lifetime.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, just something to check out there. Like I said, I really like it. I'm impressed with it. Like I said, just another option out there, if you want to try to use original Coleco hardware stuff. So, but yeah, with that,
That's
I think,
really cool.
let's probably talk about some of our other favorite games, because I know Dr. Volk there's wanting to get a list together to try out. So, so what's some other ones?
If you're looking at original releases, hands down the best Donkey Kong is the ColecoVision Donkey Kong. Aside from this, play with a different controller, whether it be Brian's or something else. Donkey Kong is hands down the best on the ColecoVision of the original releases.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason people jumped at the console to begin with. So
yeah.
Like,
there's a really cool story for people to look up on that. That story is really cool, how they went about and almost got, I don't want to say any bad words on Phil's show, but screwed over by Nintendo at CES that year after they already put down $200,000 for Donkey Kong and offered, I think it was $2 per cartridge sold.
For sale, yeah.
Yeah, and then they went to CES and they were told Atari was going to get it. And so, that really cool story there. So, look, if you don't know it, I pretty much told it all, but look it up. But then Atari got it for the computers. They got the rights for the computers, which you could say that the 8-bit line Donkey Kong is just probably a little bit more superior just because it has all the screens.
Yeah, but that's computer. We're talking consoles. That's why I said this was
right. Right. Definitely the best pack-in game of any, right? Killer app, for sure, compared to the competition at the time.
I mean, for me, you're lucky that Space Invaders was never a pack-in, because I would fight you on that. I like Space Invaders way more than I like Donkey Kong.
And that's kind of surprising. Why wouldn't they have made that? I mean, first you had Combat, but after Space Invaders came out, that should have been a pack-in. But instead, well, I guess because it's a little bit superior, we got 2600 Pac-Man as a pack-in with Combat. That might be why.
It's 100%. He's looking to boot you now.
Oh, I thought maybe he was pulling a G. Parker and he was just out there in his own little world. I get confused with the beard.
You didn't get booted. You're getting preferential treatment. When I mention Pac-Man and being anything good about Pac-Man, I get booted.
Yeah, well, I was talking to someone about Todd Fry on one of my comments on one of the videos. Man, that guy was clueless, But Atari, they just didn't have their act together when it came to how they did that. Man, I'm bitter about that. I still am.
The thing with Atari though too is they had their system out there. Everybody had it, right? We're the man, so we can do whatever we want. If we got to rush something for the holiday season, people are going to buy it. I worked in a deli whenever I was a teenager, and my manager, a grumpy old woman, said at Christmas time, she said, "This time of year, I could roll dog crap in nuts and people would buy it and eat it." And I think that's kind of the attitude that Atari had there for a while, you know.
Well, no, exactly. Well, and even in some extent, Coleco was too, because there's that like urban legend myth of they purposely made Donkey Kong on the 2600 to look like trash to help sell
in television. In television.
Well, both. I mean, they're both.
But in television, I'd rather play 2600 than in television.
Right.
That one just.
But I mean, that really wasn't the case. I mean, if you listen to interviews, on it, I mean, it literally came down to Coleco didn't want to spend the extra money to get an extra kilobyte chip, for it.
Right.
And they wanted it in time for the holidays. It was kind of like they knew. It has Donkey Kong on it. It's gonna sell. To your point, it's gonna sell. It don't matter what it's gonna sell. Put it.
And at least that's the way marketing sees it. The programmers might want something really nice they can get out there, but it all comes down to management and marketing. Say we're not spending that kind of money. You just
for sure.
Put it out
and for a competitor's console.
Who was it that programmed it for the 2600 again? What was his name?
I forget.
But I saw an interview with him. He was not instructed to make a bad port of it.
His name was Phil McCracken.
He was instructed to make a cheap port for it.
He because they wanted to put it on the lowest RAM cart they could.
Yeah, I like. Yep. If you go to BCB's next comment. After this one, I want to
answer this question. He says, "Do we really boo people on this show?" Really? Yes. Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay.
I didn't do anything. Okay, go to BCB's next comment.
Okay, hold on a second. Where was that? Okay, let's see.
Where he's like, imagine 40 years later.
I lost it. I lost it.
You and your antics, I tell you. Well, anyway, he's just saying Retro Bliss bitter about Pac-Man 40 years later. I imagine if he ever meets Todd Fry, he'd be like, listen, when I was 12, come on, man, get over it. I was going to be nicer, but you booted me for no reason.
Oh, there's always a reason.
But yeah, so
nothing else, because it's
before
fun.
we finish our go around, because I know we're starting to get on the time here.
There are a few things I want to touch on before we go, though.
But again, one other thing, because we kind of briefly touched on it, but if you are in the ColecoVision market, the other thing to look at is flash carts. Because Coleco games aren't like overly expensive. It depends on what you're looking for, but I mean, it is nice to have, especially for homebrews, because there's a huge homebrew community, which we really won't get into tonight on. But with that, like I said, this is kind of the standard one, the Atari Max Ultimate SD. Very slick. And what I really like about this one, compared to the same one they do on the 5200, is that there is a reset button. So like I don't have to constantly I don't have to keep shutting off the console every time I want to change out, to start up another game on it. So I can just hit reset on the cartridge, go back to the menu, and play whatever I want to play. So that's very convenient with this one. But then there's also the back bit, which I forgot to bring that up. But there is the back bit, which Phil must have it there. Yep. Yay. So again, which is a flash cart we talked about.
It also has a reset switch. The only thing of it is, these have back bits have these inserts that you put for each individual console. So actually this is a 7800 insert, but there's one for the ColecoVision, for the Intellivision, for the 800. There's different other systems that you have it for, but you can, depending on the system, you can utilize the reset switch on some of these without doing anything with the insert, but sometimes you have to modify the insert by going inside the console and attaching or soldering a wire to somewhere on the motherboard, and then putting it on the insert. And so, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
those are kind of your flashcard options for the Coleco. And again, there's no right or wrong with them, but just
it works though. I like it. I like
they
it.
Both
it works good.
Yeah, they both work good. So but yeah, I think let's talk about games. Poe, I don't think you mentioned a game yet, so maybe we'll start with you and kind of keep going around here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite. I really enjoy their version of Time Pilot, and I really enjoy Tapper on there a lot. Two that I did bring out here, Oil's Well, which is also Anteater or something on other systems.
Yep.
I think Oil's Well is a lot of fun to get into, and of course, Miner 2049. I have this on the 5200, the 2600, and ColecoVision. I love that game. So
when you said of course, I was expecting Popeye.
Well, yes, but okay, Popeye's my favorite #1 game on it. Everything that's ever been made, except for the Switch. And if Arcade Chaos is watching, I'm sorry, but that new Popeye they put on the Switch a few years ago was just, yeah. But the rest of them, yeah. But Oil's Well, I have a lot of fun. I could play that one for a long time. And Time Pilot on there, I thought was a really good port.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Burger Time is good too, but Intellivision did Burger Time better than anybody, in my opinion. So,
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Venture is really good on the ColecoVision. Mousetrap, that's the best version of Mousetrap on the ColecoVision. I am not good at those kind of maze games, but Mousetrap and Ladybug are the two that I can really get into, because you can like flip the doors and you can, turn yourself into the dog at will. And so I actually like those a lot more than I like any version of Pac-Man. Mm-hmm. And the ColecoVision versions are hands down the best ones.
Yeah, so some I have real quick. And again, I don't have the carts for all of them, but Sega stuff on the ColecoVision was all really good stuff. And I really enjoy the Zaxxon port that they did. Congo Bongo was another good one. Let's see what else I have here. Gorf. I liked Gorf on the ColecoVision. Mr. Do, which is kind of like a dig dug.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I like that.
Mr. Do is really good.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Excellent.
Frenzy. Can't go wrong with Frenzy on ColecoVision.
Yeah.
And then these ones, some people don't like them, but for their time being a platformer, because you never really had like a true platforming game that we kind of got in habit with when you had Super Mario Brothers, finally come out. But Smurfs, it's kind of funny, but it's actually not bad, on the ColecoVision for being a platformer of its time. And in the same vein is Cabbage Patch Kids. Again, just because they're those early platformers that you just didn't really see much of prior to those games. So
and the funny thing about Smurfs, at least, is that Coleco's port of Smurfs to the 2600 is actually pretty impressive too.
Yes, it is. Another one I really like that I just don't have the cart for is Spectron. It's kind of a clone of Space Invaders, but they kind of just did their own graphic style and stuff to it. I think that's a really good ColecoVision game as well. And again, there's others, but those are some of my top ones that I kind of went through the catalog and looked at. So
it was, for the most part, a pretty solid library compared to other libraries of the day.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I look at the Intellivision library, and there's 125 of those, and half of them I could take them or leave them.
Mm-hmm. It was a big deal back then to try to be like the arcade, and they definitely did it better than anybody else.
Oh, without a doubt.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. And I think it was, excuse me, Operation Shutdown that mentioned that Ladybug was almost arcade perfect, and it was.
Ladybug is awesome. Yeah. Mousetrap, like you said, I love those two on there too. There's just too many to name.
And I think someone actually in the chat mentioned like Centipede on Coleco. Yeah, I mean those Atari Soft games that they eventually made for the ColecoVision were honestly even better versions than you saw on the Atari consoles for a lot of those.
Yeah.
And they had a nice version of Hero. I didn't get into any Activision like talking here, but what River Raid, Hero, Pitfall were on there as well.
Oh, you're right. I didn't think there was that, but you're right. So yeah, I was wrong in my first comment. Yeah, Activision was involved, just not as much as they were on the Atari, but they did have a couple.
Yeah, Cannabis Kids, like Coleco and Television proved that back in the 80s it was possible to have a controller with as many buttons as a PlayStation or Xbox. At some point in time, someone was like, we need more buttons. You know what has a lot of buttons? Those new touch-tone phones. That's modern. Let's do that.
And they got this great cord idea for these things too, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
Let's do that.
I hate this.
I would have got caught in my mullet back in the day, but thankfully, due to nature, there's no mullet left anymore.
At least you can unplug them. And so Michael Thomason, who is our guest next week, he is a massive ColecoVision fan. That is his favorite system of all time. And he said there was a guy who knew the exact temperature, and you'd send him your ColecoVision controller, and he'd dip this in a certain temperature of water, and he could make it a flat, like a straight great cable. So there is put it in warm water and stretch it out, and you should be able to get that coil out if you really want to.
Yeah. But then to that point, the other thing, because I know we're running out of time, is just there are controller options out there. So like obviously we talk about not liking the controllers with the ColecoVision. So like I said, there are two controllers that I make.
I don't have one yet, but if you gave me one with a 40-foot telephone cord on it, I would buy that in an instant.
So like what Phil and Mike have shown. Like I said, I have.
Phil has the Model 1. I have the Model 2.
Yes. So yeah, I did a recent redesign on it. So that the design Mike's holding is the new design moving forward. That I 100% do myself, and again, it works great. I mean, it has all the super action controller functionality. Now, obviously, you don't have like the clicky thing that was on the super action controller, but you get the buttons and you get the all the keypad and so forth that's available. And then I do a second option where it's just what I kind of call the 2-button, more simple ColecoVision, where you have your two, your primary fire and your arm, secondary button, and then the 2 buttons here is the asterisk and the number 1 key, so you can still
nice.
So you can start all the ColecoVision games. Now, obviously, with this you have no keypad, but with that said, though, a lot of the library really didn't use it as much as you would think. So this is a good alternative too. And this one's obviously a cheaper option, because sometimes, the super action style might be out of the price range for somebody. And this is another secondary option that you can do. But then with that said, there's also other ones out there that are made by other folks as well.
I would like to have one of those, but with a button that is up for jump for the Smurf game, so I don't have to push up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's annoying. So before we go, because we're running a little low on time, I do want to talk briefly about the homebrew community and about where you guys can get some games. There is a homebrew scene. Mike is getting into it, and I'm getting into it, and I think you guys might be getting into it a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, I do a lot of the homebrew on it. Like I use my flash cart with most of it.
I did belong to Opcode Games Club for a while there.
These guys are the cream of the crop from what I've seen thus far.
Okay.
Almost all their games are super game module games, though. You need one of those.
Yeah. So what I've done, and Mike, if he hasn't done so yet, I'm sure he will later, because he simulcasts the show on his channel. I put links to all of what I'm about ready to mention in the description of this video, and he'll update his description after the show to reflect that. But 8-Bit Millie has a website called Console Moo, and he is distributing his games as well as some other games where he has ColecoVision games and other games as well there. And he writes a number of homebrew games for the ColecoVision. And there's a website where you can get them there. And I want to point out, just to let you know, and I want to zoom in on myself here just for a minute. He condenses his packaging, and he does that for a reason, to save money on the game. Now the cartridge is in there. I haven't opened this game up yet, but this game is $30. So that's quite a savings. If you guys know anything about how much homebrews cost, a homebrew can cost $70. So
I really support that. I have no problem with the smaller packaging. It's still complete in box. I presume there's a smaller manual in there, but still a manual.
I have not opened this up yet. So
I was going to say I don't think those have. I don't think those have.
His actual cartridges look really cool too that he makes himself. So
yeah, they're actually white.
I do have a few of his older games in the bigger boxes. And they weren't the best packaging, so this looks like it's custom packaging to fit a cart. I kind of like that.
If you know anything, like I have the if you have an Atari 2600 Plus, you know the boxes that came with that, they're about the same size as that, so they fit real nice on the shelf that way.
Waste not, want not. You don't need more than that.
Right. So you have that. But you can also, he has a club. He has a club there where you can join his club and have access to his ROM library and get all of his ROMs, and it's like $50. And so that's there. But there's also another website, ColecoVision. There's a link to there. Good Deal Games, Michael Thomason, he runs Good Deal Games. He's going to be on the show next week, by the way. He has a section in his store specifically for ColecoVision homebrews. And then there is a place where you can get homebrews. It's called ColecoVision Addict. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or not. But I believe that you can get, I think a lot of them are free ROMs. Okay. And so there's a link in the description for that.
Yeah, that's like a site that's just like encompassing like everything Coleco.
To
let you know what's out there, and if the games are openly available to download like that, they put links to them, so that way you have a easy spot to just grab the stuff.
Right. And then Poe mentioned Opcode games, and so there's a link in the description to their Facebook page there. And so they don't have a retail website. So if you
they do, but it's not made public. My guess is because of potential copyright stuff.
So in order to get there, I do believe you have to go to the Facebook page to access that. Is that correct?
If you're interested in their stuff, contact them through Facebook.
Yeah, that's
Didn't they have a lot of stuff available recently on ColecoVision's site? I thought it was them, but somebody was selling a lot of their stuff on the ColecoVision website.
I think it was that was the Pixel Boy stuff. I think maybe.
Yeah,
maybe it was Pixel Boy.
Yeah. I think they got like the rights to like reprint a number of Pixel Boy.
Yeah, you're right.
One thing I will mention, if you hop onto ColecoVision and you want to buy one of their games and you notice that it's sold out, Michael Thomason of Good Deal Games has a deal with ColecoVision that he buys all their overstock. So if they're sold out, check out Good Deal Games. He probably has it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Guys, I do have a few of theirs here that I think are really great. And somebody mentioned Mr. Do. I've loved Mr. Do from the time I was a kid. I loved the whole series. Mr. Do's Castle was the first cabinet that I played. But they came out with Mr. Do Run Run. And this is a great port of the arcade. Love this one.
Run, do run.
Right? Yeah. Great game. And another one, if you have the steering wheel, you have Safari Race by Sega that ColecoVision had out. And I played this on my channel a year and a half ago or so, right after I got it. And it works great with the steering wheel, even better than the Dukes of Hazzard. But I had to have this because I'm a good old boy.
All right, all right.
I've got a friend that lives a block from me, and he drives the General Lee. He put $100,000 into that car.
Oh.
And it even has like the proper air horn. The do 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 do. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, and then I have two more links I just want to mention. The Atari Max multi-cart we mentioned. If you guys are interested in getting a multi-cart for your ColecoVision, and a link to the Bit multi-cart. So that's really all I have. So
no, I live in Ontario. Yes, we have a General Lee up here in Ontario.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of.
Do you remember on Chips when they had the horn they pushed that played La Cucaracha? Paunch was undercover, okay? Paunch was undercover, and he needed John and the rest of the guys to know where he was at. So he's in this car, and they're like, "Where's he at?" And he'd hit the horn and play, and they were like, "There he is. Let's go." Great episode. You got to check it out.
We're flustering Phil. He wants to get his last link out. Sorry.
I'm not paying attention. Sorry, I'm trying to do the
Why wasn't there a Chips game on the ColecoVision? They should have had a Chips game.
But yeah, one last thing is, as we're wrapping up, again, not really related to ColecoVision, but I saw a couple chat things, and I think Poe mentioned about, the up button for jump and, having a way to fix that. And I will say I'm going to be announcing something here probably in about 2 weeks, Atari related, that will solve that. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because they're game programmers out there. Up is never jump. Up never should be jump. At least
they
not in
learned
a
that from the
platformer.
2600. They started that with the 2600,
Right.
and they just decided, some programmers, when they had access to an extra button, they just thought, well, why not? Let's just make it up. It would be easier.
They also started crappy ports with the 2600. We don't do that anymore, do we?
I know. All right. Well, I think we've had a good show, guys.
Yeah.
I think we've had a really good show. Appreciate you guys being here. And hold on a minute. I gotta take care. You guys keep chatting, man. I wish you just stop.
You wish that there was less activity on your channel.
I'm kidding. Well, actually, it's been a lot better chat than we had earlier today.
Yeah.
The chat was great. The chat was great tonight. We had a lot.
It was actually really good.
As I said, I was having a hard time just keeping up with it all because. Yeah, I see.
That's what I'm saying.
Actually, as I'm going back through it, I see BCB did a shout out to me, and hey BCB.
Yeah, I know.
BCB trying to keep up with it all. Yeah, about 10 minutes late, but hey.
I know. I've been trying to keep up with it all myself. So, anyway, listen. Thank you to the audience for tuning in. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Poe. Thanks to Brian. Appreciate you guys being here. Next week, we're going to have Michael Thomason from Good Deal Games.
And I'll tell you why that's special. He's been on documentaries. He's published books. He is a professor of video game history, teaches courses, former Guinness World Record holder for largest video game collector in the world. And he always says no when he's invited on podcasts. So next week, as a personal favor to me, he is coming on our podcast, and you'll have access to one of the coolest wealths of knowledge I have ever met in the video game industry.
This may be a longer than an hour show next week if we let him go. We just may be listening and let him roll, baby. That may be what we do. All right,
and it will be. My review next week is of the new homebrew that he's launching for the Sega Dreamcast, and it will be announced on our podcast next week.
Nice.
Wow. Awesome.
Nice.
All right. Well, guys, thanks a lot. Take care. We'll see you next time on Retro Bliss Rewind. Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.